everyone. Welcome. This is Lavender Sky Panther. Today is Sunday, January 30th, 2022, and the topic for the day is called Cosmic Minds Open. It's a collection of images and sky observations happening January 16th through the 27th, 2022, and this is show number 145. Now, I am going to linger on this cover slide for quite a while and touch on a few points today because I love this cover so much. I think this is my favorite of all the shows I've done so far, just because of the wonderful, playful nature of these things, and also I just came into these in a very happy, magical way. But these are obviously cryptid, or urban slang I think calls them cryptoid, action figures. So we've got Nessie, or the Loch Ness Monster, in the front left here. We've got Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yowie, whatever you want to call the Squatchy people here. And we have a Yeti, a Jackalope, Kraken in the back, and a coelacanth, and all of that. So why am I opening up with this today? Well, it is about the main thing I want to drive home is having the mind open. Opening the mind up, way open, if you haven't done it already. Because we are in the age of awakening. We're kicking the great deception to the curb by the second, thank God, by the nanosecond. And that's a good thing, because it's time now to usher in a new day, a happier day, a more peaceful and loving way for all of us. And it all begins with opening the mind. And why am I saying this? Well, I was called directly to do it in a very supernatural, in-your-face way to look up, starting in 2018 especially. And that's because, too, they say that we're pulling back the veil, or the veil is thinning. That means that if you can accept the notion that the Earth itself is a sentient being, and it's leveling up, let's just say. It's, moving into a higher consciousness, moving in from the 3D, passing through the 4D astral and moving on to the 5D and up. And as we as a collective people and consciousness are doing the same. And trying to match that frequency. So that means all the evil and darkness needs to be kicked to the curb, all of the lies and deceptions, the mockery of things that we know to be real. So, for example, I know Sasquatch is real. I've had my own encounter. I've talked about it on previous shows, especially in show number 141, Tree, Sky, Sun. I recommend you go have a look there to find out a whole nother world about Sasquatch and Bigfoot if you're not familiar with it already. But also we're going to, that's on the rise. So sightings of the Sasquatch and Yeti and what have you is on the rise as a wake-up call. Because as the Native Americans say in North America, or have said, the Sasquatch starts to appear to people more and more when the society is in trouble and in distress. And I'd say we're absolutely there. That means that people have had encounters, maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, even more recently. But especially for the ones that had an encounter like 40 years ago, such as myself, it's interesting because the experience has just been laying dormant in the brain somewhere, and only now recently in the last year or so have I even thought of it. And that's not an accident. There's like a light switch flipping on and waking our asses up, so to speak, and thank God. So when we remember these experiences, then we know that there's so much more to our world around us. And not only our world, but there's vaster worlds out there in the cosmos. But we also got to look at the world and worlds in there, meaning our inner Earth. And I covered that on a previous show called Cosmic by Nature, if you want to go look at that. So all this to say is time to open the mind up, way open. Time to expand it, time to really take in a lot of and question things that we've been told, throughout our lives that aren't true or function in a certain way, and really question things. So I even question in the Cosmic by Nature, what's at the core of the Earth. I know that even if you don't believe in an inner Earth, but I highly recommend, again, you open your mind to that. I know for sure as a kid instinctively, I knew that we don't have the model of an iron core ball at the center and then a mantle and a crest and that's it. So I know that's not true, just deep down. So I call everybody to question what's in there really, Again, even if you don't believe in an inner Earth, then tell me what's in there. Since we've only, drilled down supposedly as a people, a humankind, only to maybe a little over 7.5 miles into the crust, who can say with certainty what's in there, right? And then you've got people like remote viewers and people who can do lucid dreaming and astral travel and all kinds of things that can get at some clues that you can't, even whatever science you apply, quote-unquote pedestrian science isn't going to get you there. But things like remote viewing and tapping into some of our extraordinary abilities that we all have, that we've told we don't or just weren't even let know that they exist, can get you there. So I want to talk about that for a minute. But let me jump back to step one. Looking up will also be a great way to open your mind and wake you up if you aren't already or starting to awaken spiritually, so to speak. So I was, called, like I said, in 2018, really like neon sign pointing, look up, in the skies. And that's what started this whole channel. So if you look at any of my other previous shows, I am showing you also how to look up. And I invite you to even start your own YouTube channel if you don't have any. And just start, even if you just took one picture a day, something that looked like strangeness in the sky, or one a week, and post it wherever you are in the world. It would really help if all of us are starting to do this, to compare notes as to what's going on in our world. So I've already experimented by friends sending in photos from all different parts of the world, or all around the country here. I'm based in Miami, Florida. And it doesn't matter. No matter who sends it in, no matter where I go and travel, I'm always seeing something in the skies. So that means we've got cloaking stuff in our skies everywhere. And it's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's all right. As I've said, I've never had a negative experience looking up at something. Only maybe 2 times in the last 4 years have I kind of had a little bit of a bad feeling where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stop looking up and go inside now because I don't like the way that cloud feels or looks or whatever, or what's in it. But other than that, I really haven't had any other negative experiences. And I think all of these things have probably always been up there at some point. And I believe they're letting us see them now as a part of soft disclosure. If you really think about it, crop circle phenomenon, yes, those are real too. If you're in an area where you don't have crops, how are you going to get a crop sign, right? So, but with the skies, they're above all of us. So that's the best canvas in the world to start letting us know that they're there. And we've got to be cautionary. We have to watch out for signs that are authentic versus all of the tech, the high tech that's up in the skies that might create a false, like a false flag event. And so there's a lot of technology up in our skies right now that are employing projectors and different kind of equipment. Right now there's evidence of projectors altering the appearance of our moon and our sun. I highly recommend you look at a channel called The Final Days. I believe it was called Universal News Media before that, and then she had to change it to a different name. Again, I send you over there just to look at the hard evidence. She does an excellent job of pointing out how the tech is working up there. And I'm not sending you over there for religious views. If you're on board with them, great. If not, they're not my cup of tea, so to speak. But again, I respect the work that's being done over there, and it's highly worth the look. Okay, I'm kind of wandering a bit, so I'm going to try to rope myself back in. So the point is, there's a lot going on in the sky that isn't typical from the past, going on with our sun, the appearance of our sun, the moon, colors showing up in the sky, cloaking craft, the works. And again, look at any of my previous shows, see what's going on, and start looking where you are if you haven't been doing it already. Now, the other thing, the reason why I have this cover is the presence of the Sasquatch and the Bigfoot coming on the fore now with heightened activity, whether it's actually encounters happening right now or ones that people are starting to light bulb, pop up and remember all over the place now that have happened decades ago. They're coming as a messenger, in my opinion, to remind us of our innate powers, not only to respect nature and take care of it and ourselves, but and everything around us with respect, and salute the divinity within each of us and each living thing, even grasses and plants, insects, you name it. But also to practice our mental telepathy. So it's said that these beings use mind speak, and that even and can really understand any language, because really they're dealing with frequencies and understanding that frequency. That's universal to read or interpret frequencies. So they come to remind us to start using our telepathy, and you can practice it, by being out in nature. You can practice it with plants and trees, even grass. And it may sound funny to you if this is new to you, the concept, but I know actually a lot of people who are coming into this knowledge just naturally. Again, it's like a light switch, it's just flipping on. And even if you're not consciously looking for that, it's just starting to happen. And that again is because the frequencies on our planet and within us are starting to change, because our planet is moving in from a 3D consciousness and it's ascending upward toward a 5D consciousness. And as it does that, we're going to pass through fields of like a 4D astral realms and all this good stuff, where both angelic and demonic forces reside, so to speak, so positive and negative. That means we're going to start to see things. They say the veil is thinning. So we're going to start to see through this veil, and we might start to see beings and things that we've been told don't exist, and we may start to see them. But for a good reason, and it's a call for us to practice our gifts. So nothing negative can harm you unless you invite it in, so don't invite it in. You can telepathically send a dark force away. Just say, leave, get out, or you can just say, God, help me, rid this, take care of this for me. But anyway, also, it's a real gift to start to practice telepathic conversations with plants or animals. It's very interesting, so I invite you to try to do that. And if you're reaching out to a plant or tree, just get real quiet, send out a message consciously with good intent, and if you stop and listen, really practice listening, you're going to get a response, and it's a lot of fun. Anyway, to play around with those skills that we each have, but we got to practice them now. So again, along the line of frequencies changing on the planet, that's another good reason to start blessing your food, because you may notice your diet is changing, really not against your will, but just without your conscious effort. So I've noticed a lot of foods and liquids that I used to love to have, now my body just says, nope, we don't want to have them anymore. And the body just doesn't feel right when we have them. So what does that mean? Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. So that means that if there's a food that you want to consciously have or drink, and it may give you like internal troubles later, but you really, really want it, we all still have our wishes. um, if you're going to, embark on doing that consciously and know that you might have some issues later, at least at the very least, bless the food or the drink and then bless your body, and just say with the intention that you're blessing the food and you bless your body, and that the intent is that they have an equal match in frequency and you're lifting them both up into the same frequency. Then when you eat or drink that thing, more often than not, it's not going to bother you anymore. So that's just something I've been playing with and noticing. Now, also with frequencies, we're talking about now is the time to remember to really live from our heart space. And I was reminded of that by actually a telepathic conversation with a Yeti last year in March. And it was to live from the heart space. So whenever you're going out in the world, assume the best of everything and wrap everything. When you walk into a room, just imagine it just beaming up with God's love, and that you're lifting up the vibration of the whole room. And wrap everyone and everything in love. Make that your intent wherever you go. Now, that doesn't mean you're a doormat. So, of course, that also means that you're strong in your love, and you're strong in what is right, and you stand up for yourself and your truths, and for others if you're called to do so. Absolutely. And that can look a little fierce, but in a good way. So anyway, just it means to tap into and always go by your internal guidance with good and loving intent behind it, and then you can't go wrong. So I know I kind of wandered all over the place. I guess that's where I'll stop for now. But anyway, let us keep our cosmic mind open as a collective, and also our individual cosmic minds, and enjoy awakening more and more by the second out there. All right, now we're going to get into the sky observations, but before we do, we're also going to take a little stop on the Greetings from Around the World page and the Words, Wisdom, Spirit of the Day page combined with it today, which we're going to talk about the Opal a little bit. So first off, I'd like to say, good day, osio, how, buongiorno, guten tag, kia ora, jambo, kedu, buenos dias, bonjour, ni hao, dzień dobry, konnichiwa, dobrohonya, annyeonghaseyo, bon tarji, dobry den, aloha winala, nelimera, hurenda, and good day. Now, as I mentioned, here's an opal. I was lucky enough to come into this actually before the holidays. Very grateful. It's beautiful lavender colors, as you can see. So there are a lot of meanings the more you dig, and I invite you to do so on your own. Just really have fun digging around. There are so many fascinating meanings and origins and etymologies of opal, the stone. Depending on what areas of the world you look, there's some really fun angles to this. So I'm just taking the ones that kind of clicked with me the most right now. And I'm just going to read a couple of quotes. These excerpts come from Mooncat Crystals. It's a website. I'm not sure, I just pulled this, for the text of it. I'm not sure familiar too much with what's offered there. But anyway, I'm going to read a couple quotes. So they go like this. Then there were also Aboriginal myths saying that the creator of this universe used a rainbow to come to Earth. When he touched the ground, the soil beneath his feet turned to opals. Other Australian legends say that a large opal itself governs the stars, love, and all gold. Later on it says, wearing, touching, and observing opals can also help to boost your psychic abilities. It can connect you to the cosmic consciousness, help you see your past incarnations, and give you prophetic abilities. You might even experience visions and see alternatives that weren't visible earlier. Another quote is, It can also act as a holograph, a map of your soul. It will help you access the past, present, and future and resolve energetic problems. So I just pulled those because I found them a little bit interesting and nice as little springboards to ponder all of this further. Now, you don't need an opal to do any of the things that they've just stated. You can also just do that just with yourself. But some of these crystals really do help because they work as amplifiers, or they just help attune you a little bit better. It's no accident that everybody knows that there's quartz movement involved with clocks and watches. I invite you to look at why that is so. That's a literal piece of quartz in these things. And so it demonstrates that, yes, these operate with frequency and they can do amazing things. So when you apply them to do any of these things that they're mentioning, just imagine how well you can tap into stuff. So that's all I'm going to say for now. All right, so this is just an alternate cover slide that was like non-action figure oriented. In case anybody was looking for one of those, I was just toying with calling this show simply Cosmic because there's a lot going on. So right now this is looks like a cloaking craft right here at 8.1. There's a lot going on in the scene, and I'll cover that in the show coming up. So we're going to start off here now. Whether you're new or returning to this channel, thank you so much for being here. Welcome. Again, heartfelt thanks for being here. Now, if you are new, I'm not going to cover the, kind of all the pragmatics of what I'm doing here and why I'm doing it. I invite you to go look at some of my previous shows, just because I spent a little bit more on the intro time-wise than I like, and I'd like to keep this show nice and tight. So do look over there. I think you'll get the gist as I move through these slides. All right, so what we're going to do is look northwest in the afternoon on January 16th, and just the overall scene. Again, when I do these things, sometimes I even just feel something is there more than like seeing it with my physical eyes. I use my sense. Now, I want to change things around. I'm no longer calling it sixth sense as we've been like indoctrinated and trained to do. No. That's our first sense. That's our intuition. That comes before all senses. That's our divine connection. So, forget this sixth sense crap. We're going with our intuition. Our spidey sense is our first sense, okay? Even spidey sense. Why do we call it that, right? In dealing with spiders. So it's just our God-given divine intuition. First sense. So here we go. I sense something is up in there. And so we look at it with enhancement, and look at this. So we've got this huge spherical, perfect shape of that red-pink color signature. Again, this does not happen on every photo, so when the red-pink shows up, I know there's some kind of cloaking craft activity or something generating local to cast this. Now, it also could be a planetary body that's come into the, quote-unquote, Earth's neighborhood. I invite you to look at the description box below to see what any number of things could be generating this red-pink field of color signature. Now within here, what's interesting is we start to get a triangular form within this, kind of at the epicenter or center of this whole thing at C.1. There's something happening over here at B.1, also at D.1, something down here as well. So I invite you to take a look at this image a little longer in your own time and see what you can find in there. Now, as I always say, I narrate this show on a laptop screen, so that's a certain scale that I'm looking at. If I were narrating this in a thumbnail format, much smaller on a handheld device, I would be pointing out things in a much different way. Neither is right or wrong. It's just two different approaches. So I invite you, if you have both a laptop and a handheld screen, smaller screen format, if you can kind of put them in the same field of view and just toggle your view up and down between the two. As I talk, you may see things in an interesting way. Or I invite you, just for fun, you can mute me, mute off the sound, and really just watch the whole show on your own and see if you can pick out some of the same things that I'm finding or other things. All right, so let's move along. So this is looking west, toward the evening. Now, these are not in my car, just to be clear. I don't have all these snacks. This is outside somewhere. It was just in my foreground, in my view. But what I caught was, this captured my attention actually at sea. I thought, oh, that's got to be a cloaking craft, because that's just a really weird shape, this low in the atmosphere. And keep in mind, this low in the sky, rather, this is really low altitude, and this is in Miami, Florida, so this is a subtropical to tropical climate, and we never used to have these kind of shapes. I'm familiar with this area for decades, and we always just had typical, predictable cumulus clouds, moving along, maybe stratocirrus and things of that nature, but nothing like this. All of this looks artificial. So this really caught my attention at sea, but with enhancement, I thought, wow, I'm not really getting to too much more in here, other than I sense it's in there. But look at this. I started to really notice things at A.1, B.1, Look at this shape with a kind of a hole and indentation in it. And look at this. This is perfect triangular zigzag form. It's really perfect. And there's something happening up here at D.1 as well. So the more I looked at A.1, I even saw a hole emerging. So I'm like, okay, we're going to zoom in and put more enhancement on this in different ways to kind of get at what's going on in here. But you absolutely see rigid structure. Look at these triangular forms. Perfect triangular forms, symmetrical forms do not happen in a cloud system, natural cloud system. And we have a little, more emerging here, a little more information. So what I think is happening is we're just glimpsing the bottom here of an overall much bigger craft. And this is like a decoy cloud, or maybe there's companion craft, floating along in there. Hard to say, but that's absolutely structure. We're going to zoom in on that A feature one more time. And look at this. Look how it's going up into a perfect triangular form, up and down. And we get these holes, one here, they're equidistant. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely some type of craft, or if not craft, just some other kind of technology up there. See what you think. All right, now we're going to look to the southwest. And we've got these striations, going parallel, which grab my attention because, again, that's not cloud behavior, especially not on a sharp angle for this area of the world. And we look over to the right-hand side at the enhancement, and we start to see things that have body to them. Like this looks like 3 different, shapes of craft, or maybe it's one continuous one with distinct shapes along the way. Something very rigid's happening down here and here as well. And then look at this offshoot here. This is just not natural, this low in the sky. Then what really caught my attention was this up here. If you follow my cursor, I almost think that this is one of those planetary bodies coming into the Earth's neighborhood that's talked about, again, especially on that Final Days YouTube channel, where she really covers this well. Because we see little holes, they almost look like craters and things. And so I think all of this down here is to distract the eye from seeing what's really going on up here. But on the other hand, it could just be some kind of disturbance, atmospheric disturbance, hard to say. But I've kind of been seeing this appear a lot lately, and I tend to think we're in the camp of what she's uncovering on the Final Days channel. Very exciting stuff. Okay, we're going to zoom in on that lower portion, though, and we see, more rigid object here at A.2, B.2, and C.2. They look like independent craft. We have a line here with shadow below it and reflection type stuff on top. Or at least lighter color on top, implying that's, getting one treatment of light versus something else below. So that's a hard and fast object. That's not a cloud. And we have something similar happening here, but it's a little harder to get to, so we'll move on. Okay, this is looking at the supposed moon. It looked and felt very much like a projection. I'm just going to leave it at that for now. But it felt like there was more going on in the sky. And here, this is why. So this purple, you see, perfect curve, a hard ridge here, and something happening off in here. So I'm going to say that's more than just a cloud, that's cloaking craft. But see what you think. This gets really interesting. This is looking in the morning toward the north. And what caught my attention immediately was letter A. Look at this, how we have a sharp line, a very crisp edge, and it looks symmetrical, like we've got a point over here and a point over here. So right away, I've seen enough triangles in the sky too lately, equilateral ones especially, or symmetrical ones. I've seen so many that now I start to, see and recognize the patterns in the sky. But this is such a hard edge, you really can't miss that one. Looks like something strange is going on and happening at B. Also down here at C, we're getting a ghosted-like triangle. So is that something cloaking, like a translucent cloak? Is this something that's coming in and out of state? It could be any number of things. So with enhancement, we get at stuff much better. We get at this rigid line once again, so that's absolutely a triangular craft or object, symmetrical. And another one over here, actually, a little neighbor to the right, something weird happening up here. We get little machine parts popping out over here, so I'm going to say there's, cloak and craft going on all over the place. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm back, and then look here, we have a circular element. It's like the end of a pipe, or it's part of this overall triangular form, hard to say. Now, when I say cloaking craft, it could also be cloaking objects, like things that, are just like cloud makers, because there's a lot of artificial clouds. So maybe they're made locally on the spot with these little jets, poking out, or they just happen to be pieces of cloaking craft. See what you think. We're going to zoom in one more time to look at this triangular form. That's a rigid triangle. You still see this straight line that does not occur in natural cloud formations. And again, here's that like hole-like element or end of a pipe. Looks like these could be end of pipes over here as well, and here, like all over the place. So I'll leave this to you. It looks like another end of a pipe here. See what you can find in here. We also have like a rigid rectangular structure. So this is straight line coming down and straight parallel lines, and that would not form naturally in a natural cloud system. Then we get weird like cloak coming over cloaking material. So when I say strange cloud activity, I'm referring to that I think all of this stuff is being cloaked, and that cloaking material, I use my go-to reference. I'm just going to call it plasma, referring to something that's heavier and denser than water vapor that can hang around in the sky forever and cling to objects really well and cloak them. All right, so then we're going to move along, and oops, sorry about this little tagline down here. It got screwed up, but this is actually looking east, and this just looked weird. It looked like an overall triangular form to me. And so we look to the right, and sometimes I take out the color altogether and look at it in black and white and grayscale just to help our brain to eye connection see things in a different way. Sometimes we can see things better. Anyway, this still just became more of an enigma, but because it's so choppy and fuzzy, even to the human eye, I call that the staccato cloud effect, just meaning something is, my theory is that there's one or more craft up above here cloaking, and it's sending out electromagnetic wave activity or other types of frequencies to disturb the atmosphere locally to help cloak things. It also might just be a byproduct of the function of whatever's powering that craft, or both. I think it's both. Anyway, see what you think, see what you can find in here. This is one of those that the more you look, the more you're going to find stuff. Like I see two pipes, the ends of pipes here and here, and they're both on parallel to each other. So that tells you intelligent design is involved right there. But see what you find and see what you think. Okay, here we're going to go back to the north because it was just really intriguing with that triangular element. And now we really see a hardened line coming down on a sharp angle while everything else is kind of moving across this way. That's another telltale sign that doesn't happen in a natural cloud system. So here we go. Look at this. It even has like a thickened end on the bottom here. It looks like some type of baton or a tube. We see a hole at the end of a tube this way. So the whole thing starts to get really fascinating. And then we look over here where that triangle was, and things are breaking apart. We got things coming to the fore, these like bright crystalline structures and pieces, say that there's absolutely cloaking craft going on in here. What's going on at 8.1? This is looking spherical or like a elliptical, like a walnut-shaped thing. Then we got something up here, I didn't even label it, triangular formed. So see what you think. I know for sure, even just by my first sense, that this is, cloaking craft all over in this formation. Oh, and 8.1 looks like a shield. It comes like conical, like we're seeing the tip or point of it, as it's the rest of it's heading back that way, like like a hubcap or something. Pretty crazy, but perfect form. So that also says there's intelligent design happening there. We're going to zoom in a little bit more. So here we look at that A element, and it looks like a machine part. And over here we see a little bit more of the character of what's going on. We still catch this thing, even though I've like really lightened up the brightness, and we still get something pretty concrete here. So see what you think, though. Okay, this gets really interesting because all of this cloud activity is happening over a body of water, looking to the south on the coast of Miami. And so not only, you might look at this scene and just kind of have a red herring and be moved to just look at this shape, which does have an absolute straight line and angle to it. So you might say, oh, there's the craft, it's not cloaking that great, right? If we can make it out. But again, my point is that I think whoever is or whatever is governing these things or in them is allowing themselves to be seen as a form of soft disclosure for us people. So people like me just starting to notice this in patterns. Other people also, like I say, I highly recommend you look at other Earth and Sky watching channels all over YouTube to see what they're doing all over the world too, and what they're catching and identifying, because this is universal. We're all seeing this. And so it's just, people like me trying to make sure a lot of people are aware of this going on, if you're not already, and really start looking, and start appreciating the magnitude of what we're dealing with. So get your head out of the little minute microcosm and sand of politics and red and blue and A and B, and choose this, do this, yes or no, I'm for or against this. That is all distraction for us humans. There's a much faster world out there. We need to get ourselves looking up, and again, getting in touch with our innate abilities, very magical spiritual abilities to tap into a much bigger world. So, if we want to ascend and grow spiritually, But anyway, we've got this straight edge here at B. So I started looking there, but I'm like, wait, no, there's a lot more going on in this scene. We look at A, and I see a perfect triangular shape. I see the corner of another triangle. And then we look off in the distance at C, and there's the top of a perfect symmetrical triangle. And then I looked over at D, and here's the back end of one of those that looks like one of those triangular craft I've caught before, where the back end has like this little roundish portion, right at the middle on the back side. And then I even started to make out ghostings of pipes, and then look at this straight line. Looks like a rectangular form here, pure rectangle. Again, we don't have these pure geometrical forms in the sky unless it's like a circle or a sphere in natural skies. So we're going to start to look at this with enhancement. Now I know this is all bitmappy, especially if you're on a bigger screen. But if you squint your eyes, if you're on a bigger screen, you're going to see this a little bit better. So we've got something weird, this otherworldly kind of color popping up in here. But the really telling thing is where we're getting these red and orange and warm signatures, color signatures. Those do not just pop up in regular skies. That tells me something is actively charging up the atmosphere to create these energy, color signatures. So I suspect cloaking craft in these areas for sure. But we need to, check this out a little bit more. So again, I'm just putting this in for reference so that we're going to be looking at A.1 with these weird triangles. We're going to go to B.12, look at this a little bit. We're going to go to C.1 and look at this triangular form down here. Look at this overall triangle. We start to see it better. And we're going to look at this form at D, and then this one at E, which is the one with the pipes. So we're going to take a look at all of this a little bit more. So back up to that A with that little mini triangle. Again, it's going to be bitmappy on a big screen, but it's very telling because this comes to a straight point, So does this. It's a triangle. Then we get little weird color signatures moving on in here, but I really can't get too much more what's going on. These look like holes to me over here, like symmetrical, like perfectly symmetrical on whatever's happening over here. So again, I'm going to say there's cloaking craft going on all over the place here. Going to move in a little bit more. Can't get it too much more other than, again, this is a perfect triangle, and this comes to a point. But see what else you can find in that image. Then we're going to go to that C element, which was that triangle way off in the distance with a bright, light area going on behind it, which was also unusual because this is looking at to the south around 3:30 in the afternoon. There shouldn't be these independent bright spots all over the sky, and yet there were. We also kind of see a point coming out of this quote-unquote cloud. But anyway, let's go back to here. So what I'm seeing here at C.3 is this is very telling. There's artificial something or other, intelligent sign at play, because we've got a golden burst of energy coming behind this perfect triangle, the peak of it. And then we have a pure white element going on down here. So we can't have a golden light and a white light coexisting right here low in the sky at close to 3:30 in the afternoon in the south, in this area of the world. Also, this golden light spreads beyond, and then a weird flash of it's happening up here too. So see this point? It's like a needle. It's like the tip of a jet. F, whatever they call them, F-14, F-5s, whatever. You got like the nose of it has a needle, and then we have a burst of energy signature here. So it's very suspect. We've got, we've got cloaking craft going on. Then we're moving in one more time. Again, it's going to be bitmappy on a bigger screen. The handheld device, you probably see it better. But here's that golden burst, and then this is more white. And so something really odd is happening. And then we even have like a triangular, in profile, we have a triangle, another triangle, like a sawtooth pattern, perfect, and rigid. So again, that means that there's intelligent design and intelligent tech going on up there. All right, then we're going to go back to our original photo for just reference again, just to clear the brain a bit. So we covered A and C down here. I think we're going to zoom into, if I'm not mistaken, B, yes. So now we're going to look at that element. Now I couldn't get at too much more what's going on in here, other than we've got a straight edged line here and another one here, so that means intelligent design. We have a little bit of a reflection of something going off, but that's all I get out of here. But what's very telling is all of this color burst happening around this thing. So see what you think is happening. And then the fun part here is going to E.1. Look here. Here's this thing that's so straight, so rigid. It looks, just like a constructed item. It does not look like cloud. And then we have these two tubes. Look at these huge ends of these tubes poking out. So, what do you think's going on with that thing? no matter what, it's, intelligent design. Okay, on this slide, just X out this C. It's a carryover that I forgot to delete it out of the previous. I just copied and pasted the slide. But now we're going to go to this D element, which I said looked like a triangular form with that little curved element, right in the back side. So this almost looks like a molten piece of metal. Very interesting. Also, what's notable is it's the only thing with a bright white flash, color to it, while everything else behind is either dark or has a like a reddish orangish color in this case. That's a function of the enhanced photo where I just edit attributes of the photo such as color, brightness, color saturation, brightness, and contrast, things of that nature. We get a little bit of it over here too peeking out. So, but that does say that this is some type of different kind of material up in the clouds. It's not cloud material. What it is exactly, I don't know, but one day I would love to see all of this without all of the quote-unquote smoke and mirrors in front of it, so we can see what we're actually dealing with. Who knows, that day may come. It'll be a good one, though. All right, so then here's that structure once again. You can see it's symmetrical. We're looking at it at an oblique angle. Very interesting. But that's about all I can give you. But down here, I have question marks because this also looks like a very rigid, straight cylinder with, like a pipe. See what you think's going on. All right, then we're going to step over into a different scene in Miami looking southeast. And this is that alternate cover, where we're looking at this object at sea. So we look to the right-hand side and look at this. I mean, that's definitely some type of shape. This looks like a craft from the side, like this would be the little deck and the bow, and that would be the stern, the back end of it. And again, no natural cloud would form like that anyway and not be on an angle, while something up here is like coming on like a meandering path. Looks like it came down and just stopped here. And it looks like a white triangle. And we'll get to some more enhancement to see what's going on. But it also looks like, did this triangle burst out of here and that's the hole that it left? The more I'm looking at it, I think that's what happened. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Actually, this could even be like a little portal or a punch through the cloud that this thing just like punched through, shot up out of it and then decided to sit here. But then that doesn't solve the mystery of why this is meandering down. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with this scene. Is this a solid craft or is it just a hole that this thing flew up out of? You be the judge on that one. Then we're going to zoom in. Here's that white triangle I was talking about at B.2. Here's what I thought was the hole down here. Okay, but then we got something else appearing right on the top of it with some different enhancements. So I'm not sure what's going on in this scene. We get a reddish pink color, moving down here, and then we get the bottom of a triangle happening here as well. So this one's a stumper. See what you think is happening. Okay, then we're going to look east-northeast in the morning, and what caught my attention here is looking up and just kind of seeing the outline of a body. It's like by looking up, and we'll look at the right-hand side of the enhanced version. Looking up, it's like we're standing underneath craft that are floating overhead because this is symmetrical. That's diving down in this direction. We've got a cylinder coming out of nowhere, like down an angle this way. Well, we have something curved coming down here, or like a pointed ellipse. And then we have this thing, which is, I don't even know what kind of shape this is, but it looks like it has two wings to the side and some body moving this way. So there's no way that you can have a natural cloud system doing all these different movements. There's one here too, looks like a craft coming this way. And then we got a giant blackout sphere, happening here beyond. So I don't know what you think. If you have any great or better ideas, let me know. But to me, we're dealing with a craft here, 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 cylindrical or part of another craft coming in on the scene, and up here as well. That's all what I'll say. And I haven't even talked about the color signatures, because for this time in the morning and in the direction, we might have some golden activity, but then why is it so much brighter up here? The sun is supposedly just coming up. Anyway, see what you think's happening. Now this scene, we're going to look west-northwest, and it caught my attention because I see a straight line and, coming to a point down an angle, while the other stuff in the background is kind of moving along. So we look to the right-hand side, and I see something weird with, solidity to it happening here. And this is actually, a flattened, triangle for sure, with some weird patterning happening here at the top or the bottom. I'm not sure what we're looking at, like a horseshoe-shaped thing. And then, some other body with, cloaking material over it. So I'm going to say this is craft for sure, but see what you think. Then we're going to look west-northwest toward the evening, and this just caught my attention. It was literally in my face. So there's no way you can look at this and not, take a second look, in my opinion. So not only are we seeing like the plasma forming an outline around like a void of a huge elongated triangle, But then we've got this weird trail, coming to the top of it or flying out of it. I think it's moving toward it, actually. So we look to the right, and it just enhanced it in a way, not worrying about the bottom because it's pretty clear here what's going on. But looking more at the top, what's happening? So we get a burst of energy all over the place at the top of this thing, and I'm not sure if something, was shooting at it from maybe a cloaking craft down here, and we're seeing the trail of weaponry like hitting it, and there's some kind of impact and explosion. Again, all kind of like in an interdimensional way, translucent way. That's all I got. That's my only opinion, because otherwise I don't know why this trail would be moving in this way and why we'd have like a burst of energy happening at the top. Otherwise, it's just something that dove in here and created a splash, so to speak. But see what you think. All right, this gets really interesting looking west toward the evening. I've never seen this patterning before in the sky, actually, in all the time that I've been doing this, these shows. And so it's very intriguing what's happening here. And then we have something at C moving this direction while D is moving in another direction. A lot of curiosities here. So we're going to look at it with enhancement, and this is what we get. I'm going to leave this to you to look a little more in your own time, but here you see this kind of crisscrossing of movements that would not happen in a typical sky here in South Florida, at this altitude. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. So here's with some enhancement. What gets interesting here is we start to see it darkened, more of an imprint of a triangle if you look at f.2 and follow my cursor. Then we get a, looks like a cloaking triangle, not the imprint, but something solid with cloak on it at E.2. Get something really interesting going on here. Look at this, follow my line. There's a line coming all the way up here. This looks very like hard and fast. It's like part of an open tube, like cut open, because this is parallel exactly to this. So it looks like a machine part to me right there. There's a lot more going on. I don't know what's really going on here with 8.2. It's very interesting though. But we get these little things shooting off of it. So are these still, is this all one very fancy way to cloak an object? And this is like the front of it? Or are these independent objects? I don't know. See what you think. All right, we're going to look at it one more time, because look where I have the question marks is that thing that looks like an open tube. And then here, again, these look like they have solidity in there, but I'm not sure what's going on at all. And here's that darker imprint. You can see it going up to a point. And that's all I'll say on this for now. See what you see. Okay, this gets interesting looking east. The left-hand side, of course, I saw different kinds of activity, different colors happening all over the place. These things diving down vertical. So I look to the right, and we just see a whole bunch of activity. All I can say about this one is, again, because we have a staccato, major staccato effect, almost like a rippling, like frosted glass of the 40s on a detective's window in the old movies, looking through that warbled effect. But we've got warm color signature at 8.1, so I think that's even like a triangle on its side. Then we get a burst of pure white, so what's going on there? That's got to be some type of craft in there. And then we get this salmon color, reddish tone, so this is saying there's a bunch of different types of activity happening. There's even an imprint of something cut out here, so I'm going to say that's craft, even down here. And I think this is something too. If you follow my cursor, look at this line, it looks like that may be the point of a craft, cloaking there as well. See what you can find. Now this is looking northwest toward the evening, and what caught my attention actually was all this kind of filigrane type of patterning in here, but actually that just might be like a red herring for what's really going on. When we look to the right, I still see it, but what's really starting to catch my attention are these two parallel prong-like things at A and B, and this like straight line, so this looks like an overall bigger craft happening over here. Then we have other darker bodies here beyond, so see what you see in this scene. Here's more of that scene. Again, I thought the action was down in here, but it looks like it's really happening around it. So we're going to look at it with enhancement. Here I get a really bright red color signature in purples, magentas. And look at, we've got an actual triangular form here and another triangular form up here. So I'm going to say our action and our craft is happening up in here. Maybe something bigger looming beyond, or this is all part of it. Like one big elliptical form, probably. It doesn't put it past me that this is part of a cloaking craft as well, and stuff happening beyond. But look at the color signatures all over the place. This even looks like an independent capsule-shaped, craft as well. See what you can find in there. All right, this one is interesting, looking south, more or less up and south at noon. And what caught my attention actually on this one was just how glaring and bright and white and artificial the sun was. Again, I invite you to look at other shows that I've done that take a look at the sun as a solar simulator, or artificial sun and why. It's also covered on many other Earth and Sky Watching channels on YouTube. But anyway, artificial, white and glaring, not our true sun whatsoever. And then we get this kind of whole bank of weird camouflage coming up. So I just actually, the light was so blinding I couldn't even look at it. So what I did was just held my phone up without looking through it and snapped a picture, and this is what I got. So it was very telling because we have all of these triangular shapes, all over the place. Little fuzzy, but they're flattened, clearly triangular pattern, moving all over the place. Then we even see the edge of a bigger triangle here. Look at this. It's darker, so it appears to be just like an imprint in the sky, but actually it looks now solid, and that's just a way that these things can camouflage to look like imprints, but we're really seeing a solid. It's pretty fascinating. And then we look off to B, and it's moving this way, so the movement. So we look at it with enhancement, and sure enough, we've got this white, purely artificial, like projection or reflection or shining out with its own independent lamps that are, not the true sun here in this white, burst. We even have like a blue circular element around it. That's pretty curious. But we also see the red pink signature and the staccato cloud effect once again. So that tells me, yes, these are all cloaking craft. Also, there might be one much bigger craft above generating this disturbance because we're getting that red-pink signature. And on the fringes, we're getting like a gold signature. So again, that just doesn't happen when there's not a presence of something in the sky when I do these things. But see what you see in this scene. I'm going to move along now. And this is the photo of the day in the close of the show. This was just beautiful the way finally some golden light was casting on a tree branch for just a short period of time. And so I'm just saying sunset light on a Lysiloma tree in Miami, Florida. So I want to say thank you for looking at some things, perhaps in a new light here a while, if any of this is new to you. And if it's old hat, I hope you still appreciated some of the images. And for now, I wish everyone tremendous peace and love, and a gorgeous week ahead, wherever you are in the world. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.